Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to be talking about the city of Barrie, and we're breaking things down into neighborhoods, and we're seeing which neighborhoods are popular right now, which aren't, if we can see any market trends as it relates to the real estate market in Barrie. So let's jump in and see what we can find. So the first thing I wanted to show you all was just a map of the city of Barrie. I wanted to show you how I've broken down the neighborhoods. So if we look starting from the top up here, you can see we have the east. We've got the northeast, the city center, Sunnidale, West Barrie, Lakeshore, Ardagh, Allendale, Painswick, Inishore, Hawley, and the newly formulated south. So we're not going to have any data for the south at this point. At this point, it's just building permit. I think in the coming years, we'll start to see some development there. But at this point, not much to show. Safe to say it's not a trending neighborhood. but that's what we're looking at. That's how the data points are broken up. So let's jump into the data. So the first one that we're going to look at is the active listings at the start of the month. So all of the data points in this presentation go back to June of 2018. I thought that was enough of a period to be able to see any trends or anything starting to formulate. So the next thing, I realize there's probably a ton of numbers on this page, and you're probably like, oh my gosh, what the heck? I don't even know what to look at. I would say don't necessarily look at the numbers, just look at the colors. That's the best way to kind of spot the trends on these charts. So if you're seeing anywhere with green, that's a little bit higher than normal, higher than average, I should say, active listings. Whereas if you're seeing red, that's lower than average. So you can see kind of in these months here, January to March, that's typical for that time of year where you're going to see a little bit lower amount of active listings, just given the time period of where it's at. So again, we did experience that here. But I think even looking at it in this region here, you have a lot deeper concentration of red. So we had much lower inventory than what previously experienced in other periods. And that again started in December 2019. And really we were just trending on such a low inventory market. If it wasn't for April, and where really I think COVID had its largest impact on the real estate market, if it wasn't for COVID, there's a very good chance we would be experiencing similar market conditions to what we all experienced in the beginning of 2017 with the low inventory at that time and just the surging prices. And if you don't know what happened, you can see a previous video for what happened in June and July in 2017. But anyways, we were saved from that because of COVID. It kind of slowed things down, but we're kind of trending back that direction in terms of low inventory again. So just to break it down by some neighborhoods here, specifically the Northeast, Lakeshore, West, and Ardagh, they, out of all the neighborhoods in Barrie, are experiencing the lowest inventory, and those are ranked in order of lowest. The other thing I will say, some neighborhoods are actually kind of on average with normal levels. Neighborhoods such as Allendale, the East End, and the city center, those are more kind of on average, and not, I mean, they're still low inventory, but just closer to what their average levels would be. So I guess notably, those four that I just mentioned, the Northeast, Lakeshore, West, and Ardagh, are experiencing lower inventory than other neighborhoods in the city. The next thing we're going to look on here is the number of sales units. And again, this is done per month. And again, let's just look at the colors, not necessarily the numbers. But you can see, similar to lower inventory, that's going to result in lower sales units. So that's somewhat normal. But then if we fast forward over to this period, you can see we do have some lower sales units, but then we've also got some green numbers because we really had some pent-up demand. And this was just going into COVID. And that's why I cited 2017. It was similar market conditions. But then you can see April here with all the red figures. So that's COVID. And that's COVID's impact on the market across all the neighborhoods. But you can see coming out of that, even in May, when they just opened it up, you can see some green tinges in here. Just means above normal sales units. Followed up with June, where you've got the really highly concentrated green numbers. And that just means we had well above average sales units and just really strong demand. In fact, so if we break it down into some neighborhoods here, we can see Sunnidale, Lakeshore, West Barrie, and Hawley all were the highest neighborhoods that were above their normal sales units. Lakeshore just crushed its previous period in June, crushed it. It's just way up in the number of sales units. So, and you can just see across the board, sales units are surging, but those neighborhoods in particular seeing very, very high levels of sales units. So the next one, this is a stat that I created myself using the other two stats. You kind of bring them together and get just an overall look, which is kind of interesting. So this is the percentage of the number of sales units divided by the number of active listings at the start. It's just a percentage. So you can kind of see, it almost kind of shows you some popularity or desirability based off of, if we have this many active listings, how many sales units, like how much turnover are we experiencing? So, and again, you can just see the red numbers over here, followed by the green numbers over here. And that just shows that we're really turning over the inventory. So there isn't a lot available, but the inventory that is there is turning over super, super, super quick. So with this in mind, we can also kind of look back on an average going back to June 2018. So on that basis, the most popular neighborhood, according to the statistics, would be Sunnidale, and closely followed by Hawley. Hawley's pretty close to that, but Sunnidale, on an average basis going back, would be, according to this statistic, would be the most popular and most desirable. But now fast forwarding and just concentrating on June and even May, West Barrie really showing strong signs of desirability and turnover. So any inventory that's coming on, we are just turning through that, and it's selling. Very strong demand for West Barrie right now. The Northeast and Hawley also showing very strong signs of demand as well. Sunnidale still very strong in demand, and this is again it's stats. So if there was more inventory available, there's a good chance, it's very likely that it would rank higher. According to the data that we have here, right now, West Barrie seems to be the most desirable based off of this statistic. The last stat that we're going to look at here, just to see if we can spot some trends if we haven't already, but this is the median days on market. And if you know me, I really prefer the median as opposed to average. I think that sometimes you can have some numbers in average calculations, like a really, really high number or very, very low, that can just skew that average, where I find the median's just a little bit better in terms of kind of reading different markets. So, but in terms of the data, Sunnidale has the lowest median days on market right now. And that kind of goes back to the previous one, showing the demand for certain neighborhoods, and Sunnidale being the top. So, but other areas with very low median days on market, the Northeast, West Barrie, also trending very, very low. So, and again, all neighborhoods are very low in terms, and that's indicated by the number of red numbers on this side. You can see and right here, I'll just kind of highlight it for you, but you can see the heavy concentration of red numbers. That's just lowering of the inventory levels. The less inventory, the more demand, the lower the days on market. Stuff's going to be selling much quicker. And we're seeing that right now. We're seeing multiple offers. We're seeing stuff sell for higher sales prices than what it normally would be, probably much higher than what I would advise any of my clients to pay. So it's just kind of a time to be a little bit cautious. And if you've seen a previous video of mine, also kind of keep those thoughts into consideration. I'll link to that video at the end of this one. But the last thing I'll touch on is the neighborhood with the highest days on market. And it's funny to say the highest, because really it's not even that high. It's 18 days, which is very, very, very low. Even from an average perspective, very, very low. But the highest days on market neighborhood in Barrie at the moment is the East End, with 18 days on market, closely followed up by Lakeshore and Lakeshore. In fact, they both have 18 as well, but just some other calculations involved, I was able to just kind of pinpoint that the East End had the highest, but not by much. And as you can see, everything is experiencing low inventory, low days on market. So yeah, so in summary there, that's all the data points that I've got. But if I was to sum this up, it seems to me right now that these neighborhoods up here that I'm circling seem to be the most in demand. And then I would rank Hawley in there as well in terms of just demand. And like I said, all neighborhoods are in demand right now. But if we had to pick some according to the stats, these are the ones that kind of jump out above the others. Which is interesting because these neighborhoods, if you had have asked me before going into this, not looking at the data, I probably wouldn't have picked any of these neighborhoods to be the most neighborhoods in demand. I wouldn't have. I would have thought more the East End here. I would have thought Inishore, and that's just kind of proximity to the water. But that's got me now thinking that maybe it's there's a little bit more to it. So these, specifically Inishore too, it's got the highest average sales price for a neighborhood out of all neighborhoods. So perhaps sales price is coming into a factor here. These neighborhoods here tend to have a little bit lower average sales prices than what you would see in like Ardagh, Inishore, and the East End. So I think maybe price point has something to do with all this demand, and then also inventory. But we're seeing low inventory and just market turnover in all these neighborhoods that are highlighted. So so hopefully you got some value out of that. Tried to keep it short, concise, and to the point. If you like it, I'd love if you would subscribe for future videos. I plan to keep doing them. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.